This is a sturdy ice bath from a company in Wicklow, Ireland. Comes with a lid. At the bottom then here there's a 3/4 inch bulkhead which I've adapted with a very simple tap. This is the lid. So this water is only a few days old and had a few dunks in it with a few ice cubes. You can see that there's a bit of sediment. A few creepy crawlies have maybe made their way in as well. Mr. Ducky, which I'm sure half the ice bath community has as well. There's the fitting down here. Bit of a bulkhead, and then the plan is to put another one there where that X is. In no particular order, we have the pump, which is a Eheim CompactOn 2100. This then is obviously a strainer. Other component, which is the filter in and out with a pressure release valve, with a bracket and a tool for loosening it. Then we have a few different fittings. 3/4 inch was the plan for the entire system. It seems to be what most people are using online. We've got some sockets here, female to female. We have a bulkhead, again 3/4, going to be needed for the inflow into the tub. Flat drill or a spade drill bit just to drill that out. These barbs where you connect hose to 3/4. These come in a cool kit that come with a bit of tape, and then also the Jubilee clips. 3/4 inch braided, which I've seen a lot of people recommend. I'll probably be insulating those separately. I have more Jubilee clips there if I need them. And then also I've got plumber's tape and then just a few other accessories. Chiller's arrived. Let's unbox it. The AL300 as they're calling it. Got your attachments, the adapter. Power cable is European. Tiny little pump. The special chiller operating instructions, and then they gave me some tubing. The actual chiller itself, first thing I noticed, this is loose. It's not the end of the world. Everything else seems to be flawless, so just a little bit of super glue maybe just to hold that into place. Otherwise, inflow and outflow, I don't think it matters on these chillers which one is which. The thing is solid, heavy, clean looking, so we're going to bring it down and put it into the system. Just stuck a little bit of super glue on that, taped it into place. So here we go, unboxed the 2100. Main reasons I got this was obviously I wanted something that was going to be able to be used outside of the tank. Didn't need to be submersed. It's got a fairly strong output, about 1400 to 2100 litres an hour. I know a lot of guys were looking at the Danner pumps in the States and the active aqua pumps. Concerns about the active aqua pumps being a little bit flimsy. This is a solid unit, a good bit of weight to it. All the plastic is nice and strong. Nothing here is cheap. These are the barbs that come with it, obviously. These are rock solid. Faceplate's going to come off it for the inline pump mode, and then we'll connect the two of them. This is the pump now assembled. Took off the front guard. That was very simple, just 2 screws on each side. They came out. And then you put in the nozzle and tighten these 2 things on. The instructions are all really self-explanatory. I'll probably use the drill holes in the bottom just to attach it to a piece of timber. I've mounted the strainer, which is obviously going to go to the pump, and then that's going to go up to the filter, and eventually that's going to go to the chiller, which I've measured out, which is going to sit there. I've just tied these down with a few cable ties just to make sure that they're in place. I'm not 100% sure where long term I'm going to be putting the chiller, so eventually I'll probably build some sort of box, but this was just offcut timber to give it a bit of shape. The next step is I'm actually going to fit the barbs onto all the components first before attaching the hose. My theory being that once you put the hose onto these things and you have it tight enough, the last thing you want to be doing is turning it with the hose on it and kind of breaking the seal. So another tip that a few of the guys online were saying was just to make sure that when you're using the PE tape for the threads, just make sure that it's done in a way that it doesn't unravel as you screw it in. As I'm turning that in, the PE tape isn't getting undone. So the barbs are on now, on everything I want to connect in here anyway. I've started cutting the pipe. I used a very sharp brand new razor blade to do it. This particular one is really thick. And another tip from other guys online is obviously just putting this into boiling water to loosen up the plastic. Got my Jubilee clips on there already so that when it's fitted they can be tightened. Don't forget this part, because if you fit your pipes without them, there's no way of getting them back on. First piping is on between the strainer and the pump. Now I'm going to do the outflow from the pump into the filter. Again, just measured, cut it with a sharp razor. It's been sitting in the hot water now for about 30 seconds. When it comes out, you can see it actually changes colour, a little bit clearer, but it's a lot more softer. And then it relatively easily applies on. Not going too crazy, because obviously you don't want to break anything. And There you go. So there's something I've noticed here while fitting it. When you use a hot water trick, it actually makes the plastic so soft that even the braided thick tube can kink. So when you fit it, just kind of wait for it to dry and cool down, but try to avoid a kink drying into the hose, if that makes sense. That's it. As much as I'm going to do in here, now I'm going to move this entire thing down to the shed. So here we are, just installing the barbs onto the chiller unit. They do come with these plastic ones, nothing wrong with them, they're fairly durable. It's just they're obviously is for a smaller pipe. So I've been using these female to female brass connectors, really gently putting them on top of these, because if there's anything that I'm not going to be able to replace, it's the threads on the chiller, because I'm not sure if I'll be able to contact the customer service, let's put it that way. But they do go on nicely, and then Barb obviously on top is there. 3/4 inch as well. First change on the ice bath, we're going to be adding an inflow to complement our outflow. I've marked up here where the water line usually is, and I'm just going to have it drilled in just kind of where that water line is. Not so much that you get a loud splashy noise, but also that you can just see that the water is flowing and give you a bit of indication of how the system's working. It turns out my lower pre-installed bulkhead was not the measurement that I thought it was, so I've just reordered another bulkhead like the outflow. So that's arriving tomorrow.
A few moments later.
In and out are now both installed in the same way. Both are with the 3/4 inch bulkhead connected to a female to female, and then onto the 3/4 inch barb, which is then met with our piping. In terms of electrics, I've installed a smart plug connected to a surge protected extension lead. This allows me to use my phone to turn it on and off as necessary. I've then used some elastic bands just to make sure that those cables are kept out of any potential leaks or anything like that. Setup is now complete, water's running nicely. I've added a smart thermometer to the mix, which essentially allows me to control the chiller and the pump going on and off. And once the water's in a certain temperature range, this means that the chiller isn't running 24/7. Quick overview of how this looks on the phone. The smart plug is connected there, so I can toggle it on and off simply by pressing that button. And then also there's the thermometer. And then I have it set up so that if the temperature drops below 7.5 degrees, the plunge will automatically shut itself off. And if the temperature raises above 10 degrees, it will turn itself back on. Final tips, if I were to do this again, I would just recommend that you give yourself a few extra inches on all the pipe that you cut. Just gives you a little bit more flexibility when maneuvering different pieces into position. When I put this into a wooden container or a box setup, I'll be redoing the piping with much longer bits of pipe, which will just give you a little bit more flexibility. Secondly, I used a bit of this for 1 or 2 of the connectors where I saw that I had a few leaks coming out. It's liquid PTFE. Run it along like glue along the threads of each of the components and let it cure for a day, and it seems to work fairly strongly. So guys, that's everything from me. Many thanks for taking the time to watch the video. If one person takes even a small bit of information out of what I've done here, and it's been worthwhile from myself and Mr. Ducky, wish you the very best of luck.